The arena station floated in the darkness of space like a massive jewel. Ships from 100 different worlds surrounded it, their lights blinking in the void. Inside the station, thousands of aliens filled the seats, all waiting to see the fight that would decide the fate of an entire star system. Kralvex stood in the center of the combat floor. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with dark green scales covering his body like natural armor. His claws were as long as kitchen knives, and his yellow eyes glowed with confidence. He had never lost a fight, not once in 15 years. He was the champion of the Draxian Empire, and everyone in the galaxy knew his name. Today should be easy. Today he would fight a human. Kralvex laughed when he first heard the news. Humans were weak creatures. They had no claws, no scales, no natural weapons at all. Their skin was soft and easily damaged. They were small compared to most warrior races. The Draxian warrior had seen pictures of humans before. They looked fragile, like they might break if you touched them too hard. The doors on the opposite side of the arena opened. Kralvex expected to see a giant human warrior covered in armor and weapons. Instead, a single man walked out wearing simple combat clothes and light protective gear. His name was Deho. He was average height for a human, maybe 5 feet and 10 inches tall. He had black hair and a calm face. He did not look scared. He did not look angry. He just looked ready. The crowd went silent for a moment, then began to whisper. This was the human champion. This ordinary-looking man? Many aliens began to laugh. Some placed new bets, certain that Kralvex would win in seconds. Up in the observation deck, a young woman pressed her hands against the glass. Her name was Jiwoo, and she was part of Deho's crew on the merchant ship Aurora. She had tried to stop him from volunteering for this fight. This is crazy, she whispered to herself. He is going to die down there. Next to the arena floor, a tall alien with gray skin raised its 4 arms. This was the referee, a being from a neutral species that ran the arena. Its voice echoed through the station in multiple languages. This combat will decide territorial rights to the frontier worlds. The Draxian Empire has challenged humanity. Both sides have agreed to single combat. The winner takes the disputed territory. The loser withdraws all claims. Kralvex walked forward, his claws clicking on the metal floor. He circled around Deho like a predator studying prey. The human turned slowly, keeping the alien in front of him, but he did not move back. He showed no fear. You are the best human warrior? Kralvex asked in the common galactic language. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stones. I am the one who came, Deho replied simply. Kralvex laughed again. Your people must want to lose. They send someone who looks like a child to fight me. He flexed his claws, each one gleaming under the arena lights. I have killed warriors twice your size. I have defeated champions from species that breathe fire and crush metal with their bare hands. You have nothing. No armor, no weapons, no chance. Deho said nothing. He just watched the alien warrior with dark, calm eyes. In the diplomatic section high above the arena, Ambassador Yoon Seo sat with her fingers locked together. She was an older woman with gray streaks in her black hair. She had fought hard to avoid this combat, but the Draxian Empire had insisted. They wanted to humiliate humanity, to show the galaxy that humans did not belong among the stars. The Draxian warlord Thexnor sat across from her, his scaled face showing satisfaction. Your warrior will die quickly, he said. Then you will leave our territories and never return. Yoon Seo did not look at him. She kept watching Deho down below. The fight has not started yet. It does not matter. The outcome is already decided. Down in the arena, the referee raised all 4 arms. Fighters ready! The station's shields activated around the combat zone, protecting the audience from any damage. Medical teams stood by on all sides, ready to rush in when the fight ended. Kralvex dropped into a combat stance, his body coiled like a spring. Every muscle under his scales tensed. His claws spread wide. His mouth opened slightly, showing rows of sharp teeth and the venom glands that could paralyze prey in seconds. Deho raised his hands in a simple fighting position. His feet spread apart for balance. His breathing stayed slow and even. Begin, the referee shouted. Kralvex exploded forward with incredible speed. He crossed the distance between them in less than a second. His claws slashed through the air toward Deho's chest. The attack was fast enough to kill most beings before they could even react. But Deho moved. Not back, but to the side. The claws missed by inches, cutting through empty air where the human had just been standing. Kralvex's momentum carried him forward, and he had to catch himself before he crashed into the wall. The alien warrior spun around, surprised. His prey had dodged. That never happened. Warriors who faced him usually tried to block his first attack, and their defenses always failed. This human had simply moved out of the way. Lucky, Kralvex growled. He attacked again, faster this time. His claws came from 3 different angles, a pattern that no one could dodge completely. Deho moved like water. He ducked under one set of claws, twisted away from another, and stepped back from the third. One claw caught his shoulder, tearing through the light armor and cutting his skin. Blood appeared on his uniform, bright red against the dark fabric. The crowd cheered. First blood to Kralvex. The fight was going as expected, but Deho did not scream. He did not grab his wound or stumble back. He glanced at the cut on his shoulder, then looked back at Kralvex. His expression had not changed. Jiwoo gasped from the observation deck. He is bleeding. They need to stop the fight, but the rules were clear. The fight would only stop when someone surrendered, died, or could no longer continue. A small cut meant nothing. Kralvex felt a strange sensation in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize it because he had not felt it in many years. Doubt. This human should be terrified. He should be trying to run or begging for mercy. Instead, he just stood there calm and ready. You cannot win, Kralvex said, though he was not sure if he was telling the human or reminding himself. You are too weak, too soft. Your kind does not belong in the galaxy. Deho finally spoke, his voice quiet but clear enough for everyone to hear. We will see. The alien warrior roared and charged again. His claws flashed in the light like deadly silver. This time he would not miss. This time he would end it. But in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered a warning he could not quite hear. A warning about underestimating someone based on how they looked. A warning about prey that refused to act like prey. A warning that came too late. Kralvex hit Deho with the force of a charging bull. His shoulder slammed into the human's chest and the sound of impact echoed through the arena like a thunderclap. Deho flew backward through the air and crashed into the far wall with a sickening thud. His body left a dent in the metal before he fell to the floor. The crowd erupted in cheers. Aliens from dozens of worlds stood and shouted Kralvex's name. Betting screens around the arena lit up as thousands changed their wagers, certain the fight would be over in moments. Ambassador Yoon Seo gripped the arms of her chair so hard her knuckles turned white. She had sent many messages to Earth, begging them to send a trained soldier or someone with genetic enhancements. Instead, they sent a cargo ship officer who volunteered. She still did not understand why. Thexnor, the Draxian warlord, leaned back in his seat with satisfaction. Your human is broken. This insult will be remembered. You thought you could mock us by sending a weakling, and now everyone in the galaxy will watch him die. Down in the arena, Kralvex walked slowly toward Deho's body. The human lay still, blood running from his nose and mouth. His chest barely moved. The armor on his torso was cracked. Stay down, Kralvex said, though he did not expect the human to hear him. Die with whatever honor your species has. Then Deho's hand twitched. His fingers pressed against the floor. The crowd noise began to fade as people noticed the movement. Slowly, painfully, Deho pushed himself up onto his knees. Blood dripped from his face onto the metal floor. He coughed and more blood came out, but he kept moving. He got one foot under himself, then the other. Then he stood up. The arena fell silent. Kralvex stared. This should not be possible. He had felt the impact. He had heard ribs crack. The human should be dead or at least unable to move. Yet there he stood, swaying slightly but standing. Lie down, Kralvex commanded. You cannot win. You are only making it worse. Deho wiped blood from his mouth with the back of his hand. When he spoke, his voice was rough but steady. Not done yet. Something cold formed in Kralvex's stomach. He pushed the feeling away and attacked again. His claws raked across Deho's side, cutting through armor and flesh. The human grunted in pain, but grabbed Kralvex's arm as the claws withdrew. For just a second he held on, and the alien felt the strength in that grip. Not as strong as a Draxian, but stronger than expected. Deho pulled himself forward using Kralvex's arm and drove his knee into the alien's midsection. It was not a powerful blow. It barely hurt through Kralvex's scales, but it was a hit. The human had struck back. Kralvex roared and threw Deho away. The human tumbled across the floor and crashed into one of the arena's structural pillars. The metal rang like a bell. Again, Deho lay still. Again, the crowd thought it was over, and again, Deho stood up. "What is wrong with you?" Kralvex shouted. "Why do you not die?" Deho did not answer. He was breathing hard now, each breath clearly painful. More blood covered his uniform. His left arm hung at an odd angle, but his eyes were still focused. Still watching the alien warrior. Up in the observation deck, Jiwoo had tears running down her face. "Stop getting up," she whispered. "Please, just stay down." But Deho did not stay down. He moved toward Kralvex again, slower now, but still moving. His stance had changed. He was not standing straight anymore. He kept his weight low, his movements more careful. He was learning from each exchange, adjusting his strategy. Kralvex charged again, determined to end this once and for all. But this time Deho did not try to dodge completely. He moved just enough so the claws hit his shoulder instead of his throat. The injury was bad but not fatal. At the same moment, Deho's good hand shot out and struck Kralvex's eye. The alien warrior stumbled back, blinking. It was not a serious injury, just a scratch on his eyelid. But it was the first time anyone had managed to hurt him in 12 fights. The first time he had felt pain in this arena. The crowd's cheering became confused. Some aliens still supported Kralvex, but others were starting to watch with different eyes. This human refused to quit. He kept fighting even when fighting seemed impossible. Time passed. 5 minutes became 10. 10 became 20. The fight continued. Kralvex had expected this to be over in less than a minute. His species was built for quick explosive combat. They attacked with overwhelming force and ended fights fast. But this human would not let it end. Every time Kralvex knocked him down, he got back up. Every time the alien thought he had won, the human kept fighting. Deho's body was a map of injuries. His face was swollen. His uniform was more red than its original color. He moved like every step hurt. But he kept moving. Kept watching. Kept learning. And slowly, very slowly, Kralvex began to understand what was happening. He was getting tired. His muscles burned from the constant exertion. His breath came harder. He had never fought for this long before. He had never needed to. Deho, despite his injuries, seemed to be pacing himself. He did not waste energy on unnecessary movements. Each action had a purpose. He blocked only when he had to, dodged only as much as needed, and struck only at specific targets. The human was aiming for Kralvex's joints, his knees, his elbows, his neck, places where even scales did not provide much protection. The hits were weak individually, but they were adding up. Small cuts appeared on Kralvex's body. His right knee began to ache where Deho had kicked it 3 times. "You are just delaying the inevitable," Kralvex panted. He was actually breathing hard now, something that had never happened in an arena fight before. Deho did not waste breath on words. He just kept fighting. 30 minutes passed. Then 40. In the diplomatic section, Thexnor was no longer smiling. He leaned forward, watching carefully. "Why does your warrior not fall?" he demanded. Ambassador Yunseo kept her face neutral, but inside she was beginning to understand. Beginning to see why Earth had sent Deho. "Humans are persistence hunters," she said quietly. "What does that mean?" "It means we do not give up. Ever." Down in the arena, Kralvex attacked again, but his movements were slower. His claws did not slash as fast. When he connected with Deho's body, the human rolled with the impact instead of taking the full force. He was adapting, learning to minimize damage. And then something happened that no one expected. Kralvex threw a powerful punch, putting all his strength behind it. Deho moved his head just slightly. The fist missed by a hair's width and hit the metal pillar behind him. The pillar rang and Kralvex howled in pain. He had hurt his hand on the hard metal. Deho had made the alien miss on purpose, had positioned himself so Kralvex would hit the pillar if the attack failed. The human was not just surviving anymore. He was thinking ahead, planning, using the alien's own strength against him. The crowd noise changed again. Now there was uncertainty. Some aliens began to whisper. Could the human actually win this? Kralvex heard the whispers and rage filled him. He was the champion. He could not lose to a weak human. He roared and charged one more time, his injured hand forgotten in his fury. But fury made him sloppy. Deho sidestepped and stuck out his foot. Kralvex tripped over it and crashed face first into the arena floor. For the first time in the fight, The alien was the one lying on the ground, and standing above him, covered in blood and barely able to breathe, was Deho. The human did not attack while Kralvex was down. He just stood there waiting, giving the alien a chance to get up, showing more honor than Kralvex had shown him. The alien warrior climbed to his feet slowly, and for the first time in 15 years, he felt something he had never felt in combat before. Fear. The fight had been going for over an hour. All around the galaxy, beings watched the broadcast in disbelief. This was not how arena combat worked. Matches lasted minutes, not hours. Champions won quickly or lost quickly. There was no middle ground. But Deho did not know he was supposed to lose quickly. Or if he knew, he did not care. Kralvex stood across from the human, his chest heaving with each breath. His scales, which had seemed so bright and perfect at the start, were now scratched and dull. Blood leaked from a dozen small cuts. His right hand throbbed where he had hit the pillar. His knees ached. His muscles screamed for rest. The human looked even worse. His face was so swollen that one eye was almost shut. Blood covered most of his body. His left arm was definitely broken, hanging useless at his side. He moved like an old man, slow and careful. But he was still moving, still watching Kralvex with that one good eye. Why? Kralvex asked, his voice rough. Why do you not surrender? You cannot win. Look at yourself. You are broken. Deho spat blood onto the floor. When he spoke, his words came out thick and slow, forced through swollen lips. Not broken. Still here. Your body will fail soon. You are only human. You have limits. Everyone has limits. Deho took a step forward, his leg dragging slightly. Question is, who reaches theirs first? Kralvex felt a chill run down his spine. The human was right. For the first time in his career, the Draxian warrior was approaching his limits. His species was built for power, for fast hunts, for overwhelming force. They were not built for this. Not built to fight for hours against prey that refused to die. In a medical station just outside the arena, a human doctor named Hyunwoo stared at his monitors in horror. He was tracking Deho's vital signs through sensors in the human's uniform. The readings were terrible. Multiple broken bones, internal bleeding, possible skull fracture, severe blood loss. He should be unconscious, Hyunwoo whispered to his assistant. His pain levels alone should have shut his body down. How is he still fighting? The assistant, a young woman from Earth, shook her head. I do not know. But he is not going to stop. You know how he is. Hyunwoo did know. He had served on the Aurora with Deho for 3 years. He had seen the man work for 30 hours straight to repair a damaged engine, while the ship drifted in dangerous space, had watched him stay conscious and give orders while suffering from radiation poisoning, until every crew member was safe. Deho did not know how to quit, but this was different. This was going to kill him. Back in the arena, Kralvex attacked again. He was slower now, his movements less precise but still dangerous. His claws raked toward Deho's chest. The human could not dodge completely anymore. He was too hurt, too slow. The claws caught him across the ribs, adding new cuts to the old ones. But as the claws connected, Deho grabbed Kralvex's wrist with his good hand. Before the alien could pull away, the human drove his thumb into a pressure point between the bones. It was a technique from Earth martial arts designed to cause pain and weaken grip. Kralvex's hand spasmed open. His claws retracted involuntarily. The pain was sharp and unexpected. He yanked his arm away and stumbled back. You studied us, Kralvex said, realization dawning. You know our anatomy. Our weak points, Deho nodded slowly. Did my homework. Your species has pressure points. Just like every species, just like humans. He coughed and more blood came up. You thought we would send someone unprepared. The alien warrior looked up at the diplomatic box where Thexnor sat. His commander was leaning forward now, his scaled face showing concern. The warlord had assumed this would be an easy victory, a show of dominance. Instead, it was becoming a lesson in humility. Your kind are supposed to be weak, Kralvex said, almost pleading. The galaxy says humans are fragile. You have no natural weapons, no armor, no advantages. That is true. Deho took another step forward. His leg nearly gave out, but he caught himself. We are weak, but we learned to survive anyway. On Earth, we were prey once. Weaker than the lions, slower than the wolves. No claws, no fangs, no venom. He pointed at Kralvex with a shaking hand. But we are still here. Know why? Kralvex did not answer. Because we do not stop. Ever. We chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion. We fight enemies until they cannot fight anymore. We solve problems until there is a solution. That is what humans do. We endure. The words hit Kralvex harder than any physical blow. He realized the truth. This was not a fight between two warriors. This was a fight between two different philosophies. The Draxian way was overwhelming power and quick victory. The human way was persistence and refusing to lose, and in a long fight, persistence would win. Kralvex charged again, but his heart was not in it. His attacks were desperate now. He needed to end this before his body gave out, before the impossible happened and he lost to a human. Deho met the charge, but not by dodging. He stepped into it, getting close to Kralvex, where the alien's long arms and claws were less effective. At close range, the human delivered short, sharp strikes to the alien's torso. Each hit was weak, but they targeted nerves and soft spots between scales. The two fighters grappled, each trying to gain an advantage. Kralvex was stronger, but Deho understood leverage better. The human used the alien's own weight against him, redirecting force instead of opposing it directly. They broke apart, both staggering, both bleeding. Both exhausted, the crowd was silent now. No one was cheering. Everyone was simply watching, unable to look away. This was not entertainment anymore. This was witnessing something historic, something that would be talked about for generations. Up in the observation deck, Jiwoo had stopped crying. She stood with her hands pressed against the glass, her face determined. She had realized what Deho was doing. He was not trying to survive. He was trying to prove a point. To show every species watching that humans belonged in the galaxy, that they would not be pushed around or dismissed. "Come on," she whispered. "You can do this. I know you can." Down in the arena, Kralvex felt his legs shaking. His vision was starting to blur at the edges. His body was screaming at him to stop, to rest. He had never pushed himself this hard. His species did not train for endurance. They did not need to. Until now, Deho looked even worse, but he was still standing. Still had that same calm look in his remaining good eye. The human raised his one working arm in a fighting stance, ready for more. "I do not understand you," Kralvex said. "You should hate me. I have hurt you badly, yet you gave me a chance to stand when I fell. Why?" "Because this is not about hate," Deho replied. "This is about respect, showing the galaxy that humans can be strong without being cruel, can win without dishonoring ourselves. You speak of honor while covered in blood. Blood washes off. Honor does not." Kralvex felt something crack inside him. Not his body, but something deeper. His pride. His certainty. His belief that strength was everything. This small, weak, broken human had more honor than Kralvex had shown in 15 years of victories. The alien warrior prepared for another attack, but his body betrayed him. His right leg buckled. The knee that Deho had hit multiple times finally gave out. Kralvex caught himself before falling completely, but he dropped to one knee. Deho did not attack. He just stood there waiting again. "Stand up," the human said quietly. "You are a warrior." "Stand up," Kralvex tried. He pushed with his good leg, tried to force his body to obey, but the knee would not hold his weight. He fell to both knees, his claws scraping the floor for balance. The referee moved forward, ready to call the fight. But Kralvex raised a hand to stop them. He looked up at Deho, seeing the human clearly for the first time, seeing past the weakness of his body to the strength of his will. "How do you keep going?" Kralvex asked. Deho smiled through his broken face. "Because giving up is not an option. Never was. Never will be." And with those words, Kralvex understood that he had already lost, not because his body had failed, but because he had faced something he had no defense against. Pure, unstoppable human determination. The arena had become a battlefield of wills. 2 hours had passed since the fight began. In the entire history of the Galactic Arena, no combat had ever lasted this long. The record before this was 43 minutes. This fight had shattered that record and kept going. Kralvex pushed himself back to his feet, his damaged knee screaming in protest. He could not lose. Would not lose. He was the champion of the Draxian Empire. He had been undefeated for 15 years. He had killed warriors from species that humans had never even heard of. He could not be brought down by this small, weak creature. But as he looked at Deho, he saw something that terrified him. The human was smiling. Not a big smile, just a small curve of his swollen lips. The man was in agony, his body broken in a dozen places, and he was smiling. "What is funny?" Kralvex demanded. "You're trying so hard not to lose," Deho said, his voice hoarse. "But I am just trying to survive." "Big difference. There is no difference. If you survive, I lose. That is where you are wrong." Deho shifted his weight, adjusting his stance despite the pain. "You fight to win. I fight to keep breathing. Much simpler goal. Easier to achieve." In the military observation section, a human officer named Tae Young sat with his arms crossed. He had served in Earth's defense forces for 20 years and had trained hundreds of soldiers. He had not wanted Deho to volunteer for this fight, had argued against it. Now, watching the battle unfold, he was beginning to understand the strategy. "He is teaching them," Tae Young said to his assistant. "Teaching who, sir?" "Everyone watching. Every species that thinks humans are weak. He is showing them what we really are." Tae Young leaned forward, his eyes intense. "We are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the toughest, but we are the most stubborn. And sometimes that matters more than anything else." Down in the arena, Kralvex attacked with renewed desperation. He knew his time was running out. His body had limits, and he was approaching them fast. Every movement hurt now. Every breath burned. But he pushed forward, his claws flashing in deadly arcs. Deho did not try to dodge completely anymore. He could not. Instead, he minimized the damage. He turned his body so claws hit muscle instead of organs. He raised his broken arm to protect his head, accepting the pain in exchange for survival. His strategy had changed from avoiding injury to controlling where the injuries occurred. The human fought like someone who had studied pain, who understood it intimately, like someone who had learned to function despite it, and he had. Deho had grown up on a colony world where medical supplies were scarce. He had broken bones before and kept working because the work had to be done. Had suffered injuries and kept going because others depended on him. Pain was an old companion, not a stranger. Kralvex, for all his power, had never experienced real pain before. He had always won too quickly, had always been too strong. Now, with his body failing and his enemy still standing, he was learning what it meant to truly suffer. "Why?" Kralvex shouted, his voice cracking. "Why do you not fall?" "Because people are counting on me." Deho blocked a claw strike with his good arm, the impact nearly knocking him down. "My crew, my species, everyone watching who thinks humans do not belong here. I fall, I prove them right, so I do not fall." The words hit harder than any physical blow. Kralvex realized that Deho was not fighting for himself. He was fighting for every human in the galaxy. The pressure of that responsibility would have crushed most beings. Instead, it was keeping Deho on his feet. Jiwoo watched from the observation deck as the two fighters circled each other. Both were barely standing. Both were covered in injuries. But there was a difference now. Kralvex moved like he was afraid. His attacks were hesitant, defensive. Deho moved with certainty. He knew exactly what he was doing. "He is winning," Jiwoo whispered in disbelief. "He is actually winning." The aliens around her had stopped cheering for Kralvex. Some were silent. Others were murmuring to each other in their various languages. The bets had stopped updating. No one knew how to calculate odds for a fight that defied all logic. In the diplomatic section, Thexnor gripped the arms of his chair hard enough to crack the metal. His champion was struggling. His empire's reputation was on the line. He turned to Ambassador Yunseo with fury in his eyes. "Your warrior uses tricks. Deception. This is not honorable combat." Yunseo finally allowed herself a small smile. "He uses intelligence, strategy. He turns his weaknesses into advantages. That is not deception. That is wisdom." She looked at the warlord directly. "Your champion is stronger and faster. If those were the only things that mattered, this fight would have ended in seconds. But they are not the only things that matter. What else could matter? The will to win. The refusal to quit. The determination to keep going when every logical reason says to stop." Yunseo gestured to the arena below. "That is the human advantage. We survive because we do not know how to give up." Down on the arena floor, Kralvex threw a wild punch. Deho stepped inside the attack and delivered a short strike to the alien's throat. Not hard enough to crush the windpipe, but hard enough to make breathing difficult. The alien staggered back, gasping. For the first time, Kralvex felt real fear. Not fear of losing, fear of dying. This human had studied Draxian anatomy, knew exactly where to strike, to cause maximum damage with minimum force. Every attack was calculated, precise, deadly despite the human's weakened state. You said you studied us, Kralvex wheezed.
When? How?
Months ago. Deho circled slowly, keeping his distance now. When we heard about the territorial dispute, when we knew combat might be necessary, I studied recordings of your fights, analyzed your movement patterns, found your weaknesses. He coughed, spitting more blood. You thought this was about strength. This was always about knowledge. Kralvex felt his world tilting. He had never prepared for a fight before. Never needed to. His natural advantages had always been enough. The idea that his opponent had spent months studying him, preparing for this moment, had never occurred to him. The human had turned his weakness into a weapon, had used his inferior body as an excuse for his enemies to underestimate him, and then had struck with precision and planning that no amount of physical strength could overcome. I have been a fool, Kralvex said quietly. Yes, Deho agreed. But you can learn. That is the good news. Everyone can learn. The alien warrior attacked one more time, but his heart was not in it. His body was failing. His knee gave out completely with a sickening crack. He fell forward, and this time he could not get back up. He lay on the arena floor, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Deho stood over him. The human swayed dangerously, barely conscious himself. But he was standing. That was what mattered. The referee moved forward, counting. 1, 2, 3. Kralvex tried to push himself up. His arms shook with the effort, but they could not lift his weight. His body had finally reached its absolute limit. 4, 5, 6. The crowd was completely silent. Tens of thousands of aliens watched in disbelief. The impossible was happening. The human was winning. 7, 8, 9. Kralvex looked up at Deho one last time. The human was barely standing, held upright by will alone. But there was no cruelty in his eyes. No triumph. Just exhaustion and relief. 10. The referee raised its forearms. The winner by knockout is the human fighter Deho. The arena exploded with noise. Some aliens cheered. Others shouted in anger. Many simply sat in stunned silence, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Up in the observation deck, Jiwoo screamed with joy and relief. Tears streamed down her face as she watched medical teams rush onto the arena floor. In the diplomatic section, Ambassador Yunseo allowed herself to breathe for the first time in 2 hours. Beside her, Thexnor sat frozen, his face showing emotions that Draxians rarely experienced. Shock, confusion, and the beginning of respect. On the arena floor, Deho's legs finally gave out. He collapsed next to Kralvex, both fighters lying on the cold metal, both pushed far beyond their limits. But only one of them was still smiling. The medical teams reached Deho within seconds of the fight ending. Dr. Hyunwoo was the first to arrive, his equipment scanning the human even as he knelt beside him. The readings made his face go pale. "Get the emergency pod," he shouted to his assistants. "Now!" A young medical officer named Bora helped lift Deho onto a floating stretcher. The human's eyes were closed, his breathing shallow. His body had shut down the moment the fight ended, all the pain and damage finally catching up to him. Is he going to survive? Bora asked quietly. I do not know, Hyunwoo admitted. By all logic, he should have died 20 minutes into the fight. His body should have given up. But somehow, he shook his head in wonder. Somehow he kept going. On the other side of the arena floor, Draxian medics tended to Kralvex. The alien warrior was conscious, watching as the humans worked on their fighter. His knee was badly damaged, possibly beyond repair. His body was covered in small wounds that together amounted to serious blood loss. But he would survive. He had lost, but he would live. That was more than many of his opponents could say. The referee stood in the center of the arena, its voice echoing through the station. By the laws of galactic combat, the disputed territories are awarded to humanity. The Draxian Empire must withdraw all claims and recognize human sovereignty in the frontier worlds. The crowd reacted with mixed emotions. Some species cheered the upset victory. Others grumbled about luck and tricks. But everyone was talking. The news would spread across the galaxy within hours. A human had defeated the Draxian champion. A weak, small, supposedly inferior human had won. In the diplomatic section, Ambassador Yunseo stood and faced Thexnor. The Draxian warlord sat rigid in his chair. his scaled face showing barely controlled anger. The terms were agreed upon, Yunseo said firmly. Your empire will honor them. Thexnor's claws dug into the metal armrests. This was a fluke. A lucky victory. It proves nothing about your species. It proves everything about my species. Yunseo's voice was calm but strong. It proves that we belong here, that we can stand against anyone who challenges us, not through superior strength but through determination and intelligence. Those have always been humanity's true weapons. The warlord stood slowly, towering over the human ambassador. For a moment tension filled the air. Then surprisingly, Thexnor gave a slight bow of his head. It was small, barely noticeable, but it was there. A gesture of respect from a warrior culture to a worthy opponent. Your warrior fought with honor, Thexnor said quietly. I did not expect that. I thought humans would use any advantage, any trick to win. But he gave my champion chances to stand. He showed mercy even when he could have pressed his advantage. The warlord turned to look at the arena floor where Daeho was being carried away. Perhaps we have underestimated your kind. Perhaps, Yunseo agreed. But you do not need to make that mistake again. We did not come to the stars to conquer. We came to survive, to find our place, to build something new. She met the warlord's eyes. We only fight when we have no other choice. But when we do fight, we do not lose. 3 days later, Daeho woke up in the station's medical center. His entire body was wrapped in bandages and healing equipment. Tubes and wires connected him to machines that beeped softly. For a moment, he did not remember where he was or what had happened. Then it all came back. The fight, Kralvex, the pain, the determination to keep standing no matter what. Welcome back, a familiar voice said. Daeho turned his head slowly, the movement sending small waves of pain through his body. Jiwoo sat in a chair beside his bed, her eyes red from crying and lack of sleep. When she saw him looking at her, she smiled. You scared me, she said, her voice shaking. You almost died, you idiot. But I did not, Daeho replied, his voice rough from disuse. We won? We won. The territories are ours. Earth is celebrating. The whole galaxy is talking about you. Jiwoo leaned forward. Why did you do it? Why did you volunteer? We could have sent a trained soldier. Someone enhanced. Someone with better chances. Daeho was quiet for a moment, thinking. Because a soldier would have tried to defeat Kralvex, to beat him in combat. That was not the point. What was the point? To show them who we are. Not what we can do in ideal conditions, but what we can endure, what we refuse to give up on. He shifted slightly, wincing. A perfect warrior would have won faster but taught them nothing. They needed to see a regular human. Someone ordinary, someone who could be hurt but refused to quit. That sends a message no amount of enhanced strength could send. Jiwoo shook her head in amazement. You are either very wise or very crazy. Can be both. The door to the medical room opened and Dr. Hyunwoo entered with a datapad. He checked the monitors and nodded with satisfaction. Your recovery is progressing well. Better than expected, though that seems to be a pattern with you. He looked at Daeho seriously. You should not have survived that fight. Your body sustained damage that would have killed most beings, but somehow you pushed through. How? Daeho thought about the question. I remembered a story my grandfather told me about humans hunting on Earth thousands of years ago. We were not fast like cats, not strong like bears, but we would pick an animal and chase it. For hours, for days sometimes. The animal would run until it could not run anymore, until its body gave up. And we would still be there, still moving, still coming. That is what humans are. We are the thing that does not stop. That is a terrifying thought, Hyunwoo said quietly. Yes, but it kept me alive. Over the next week, as Daeho recovered, visitors came and went. Ambassador Yunseo brought official thanks from Earth's government. Military officer Tae-young came to study what had happened, to learn from the fight and incorporate lessons into training. Jiwoo and the crew from the Aurora visited daily, bringing news and laughter. And one day, surprisingly, Kralvex came. The Draxian warrior walked with a heavy limp, his damaged knee wrapped in advanced healing technology. He stood at the door of Daeho's room, uncertain. This was not his empire. These were not his people. He was alone here, a defeated champion in enemy territory. Come in, Daeho said, gesturing to a chair strong enough to hold the alien's weight. Kralvex entered slowly and sat. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, the alien warrior found his voice. I came to understand, he said. How you did it. How you won? I did not win, Deho replied. We both survived. That is what matters. You defeated me. That is the same as winning. No, winning and surviving are different things. Deho adjusted his position, sitting up slightly despite the pain. I did not come to that arena to beat you. I came to not lose. Big difference. Kralvex was silent, processing this. I have thought about our fight every day. I have watched recordings of it, analyzed every move, and I realized something. You were never trying to kill me. Every strike, every attack you aimed to disable, not destroy. Why? Because the fight was never about you, Deho explained. It was about what you represented. Your empire's belief that humans are weak, that we do not belong. I needed to prove that wrong, but I did not need to kill you to do it. Your death would have made me a killer. Your defeat made me a teacher. The alien warrior leaned back, understanding washing over him. You taught me humility, showed me that strength is not everything, that I had become arrogant, believing my victories made me invincible. He looked at Deho with respect. You are the first opponent to truly defeat me, because you are the first to teach me something. What did you learn? That underestimating an enemy based on appearance is foolish. That preparation matters more than natural advantages. That will can overcome physical limitations. Kralvex paused, and that humans are far more dangerous than we ever imagined. Not because you are strong, but because you refuse to accept defeat. Deho smiled. Now you understand. We did not come to the stars to fight. We came to survive. But if someone forces us to fight, we will not quit until we win or die. There is no middle ground for humans. No surrender. No giving up. That is a terrifying trait, Kralvex said. Yes, but it kept our species alive on a death world. It brought us to the stars. And it will keep us here, no matter who tries to push us out. The alien warrior stood, his knee protesting the movement. He gave Deho a formal Draxian bow, a gesture of deep respect usually reserved for honored elders. Your species belongs in the galaxy, Kralvex said. I will make sure others know this. I will tell them what I learned, that humans should not be dismissed or attacked casually, that you are more dangerous than you appear, and that your true strength lies not in your bodies but in your spirits. Thank you, Deho replied. That is all we ask. To be given a fair chance, to be respected. We will earn the rest. Kralvex left and Deho lay back in his bed, exhausted but satisfied. The fight had been brutal. The pain had been terrible. The injuries would take months to fully heal. But it had been worth it. Through the medical center window he could see the stars. Thousands of them, scattered across the darkness like diamonds on black cloth. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were talking about the human who refused to fall, the merchant officer who defeated a champion, the ordinary man who did something extraordinary. And they would remember. The galaxy would remember that humans, despite their weakness,